Semiotics in drama. Some students initially struggle with the idea of semiotics and they're unsure about the word. So I'm going to take some time to give you a bit of a definition of semiotics and try to give you some examples and make you think a little bit about what semiotics might mean for you and your performance work. So, if you don't already know the definition of semiotics, it's the reading of signs and symbols. And obviously in a drama piece, there can be many signs and symbols, from props, costume, lighting, where the actors are standing, how they're interacting, etc, etc. And then of course the context within those signs and symbols. If you shine an apple in a red light, it's going to look different to if you shine it in a white light. And there are going to be different connotations that the audience bring. They've got their own ideas that they also bring to your work. So, semiotics, the reading of signs and symbols. I'm going to get you to think about that a little bit for a while. So if I ask you to picture a cross, every student is picturing something a little bit different. Maybe some of them are picturing the same cross. In the school I most recently taught in, a lot of students here were Christians, so their cross was a big wooden crucifix for some of them, and that's the first thing that sprang to mind. For you, perhaps it's a different type of cross. Perhaps your cross is this way rather than this way. And then I might start to give you some context to that cross. So perhaps you've got a cross this way. I want you to imagine that cross now in red ink. Now, red ink might change the meaning of that cross, but the context will also change the meaning. If that cross is on a treasure map, you've guessed it, X marks the spot, that's where the treasure is. That's going to be different to that cross, maybe a few of them at the bottom of a letter. There's some kisses. Now take those red crosses, instead of putting them at the bottom of a letter, which incidentally, those kisses can be positive or negative depending on what you want from that person who wrote the letter. But take those red crosses now, stick them on a piece of your maths work. Is that teacher sending you kisses? Probably not. You've used the context to read that that's incorrect, or maybe a times sign. So the context changes the meaning of a symbol. The symbol of a cross can mean so many different things, way more than I've dipped into there. But again, the context changes. So it's the same for theatre, the symbol. Perhaps you have a flower, and depending on what you do with that flower, will bring a different meaning to what's happening on stage. If you seemingly lay that flower at someone's doorstep and cheekily run away, that's going to have a different meaning to slowly bring the flower and laying it down on the floor. So that's semiotics. You are reading signs and symbols, and that's some examples in drama. But I want you to think about now the other elements that you can bring in. I've already mentioned props, for example, a flower. I've mentioned briefly lighting. Your set design. Your audience will read meaning into what you put in your set design. And then let's not forget the actors on stage. There is so much meaning that can be read into just the way you walk, the way you stand, where you look, your levels in relation to the other characters on stage, your proxemics, how far or how close you are. All of these things allow the audience to read meaning into your work, to read the symbols that you are showing them. Then, of course, you've got the idea of music on top of that, but don't speak over it. If it's a piece that you've got some mime work or something happening. I would normally in a lesson do a 3-second play. So I would have a student come and sit in the space. I would walk behind them, reach out to touch them, and then change my mind. I'd let them know I was going to do this, so they weren't too worried about it. We would do that 3 times to 3 very different pieces of music and allow the rest of the class to read into that. Obviously, different class members will have different preferences as to which piece they like. Maybe they liked this happening with some spooky music where I was almost the villain going to harm the person sat on the floor. Maybe they liked it with a really sad piece of music and would think that, you know, that student was upset, I was thinking about helping them, change my mind. They would change the characters that we play, even though we will do the same simple action each time. The music changes the meaning. It gives context to that simple movement, myself walking behind a student, reaching out. The music changed that context each time and allowed the audience to read in different meanings. Now, if you're beginning to play around with semiotics in your pieces, wonderful. I would suggest reviewing your work as much as possible. Ideally, show it to someone, many people. Show it to classmates, teachers, directors, producers, depends what you're doing, and see what meaning they read into your work. It may be that they're spot on and they are reading what you were hoping to create. Maybe not. And if you're happy with the meaning that they are reading into your piece, go with it, wonderful. But if you're not, then you'll need to change something. If they're reading in that, oh, well, this person is homeless and you've decided not to help them, you know, you're a cruel character, that's fine if that's what you want to show or that's what you're happy showing. If you say, oh, no, actually, this person has done something really bad and this person is afraid of them, then you need to change your music, change your levels, change your proxemics, bring in a piece of prop or something to try and change the meaning back to what you wanted. So it's very interesting that different people will read in different meanings depending on their pre-programmed semiotics. We thought about the cross at the beginning. When I say to somebody, picture a cross, they're probably not picturing the same cross as the person sat next to them in the same auditorium or audience space. So use your semiotics. There are a wealth of things it can use here. Like I said, props, costume, lighting, music. Or if you've got none of those things available, you've got yourself, the actor, the fellow actors on stage, the scenery, where you place a chair, how you sit on the chair tells the audience something about you, about your relationship with the person on stage, with the chair that you are gripping or caressing. So many different elements that you've got here. So if you break down your acting skills, the skills that you know you have, facial expression, body language, gestures, posture, gait, the way in which you walk, interaction with other characters on stage, levels, proxemics, play around with all of that. If you change one thing, does it change the meaning? Is that the meaning you intended? Or do you want to go with the new meaning? Have a play. It's a really fun exercise to do. Can you change the meaning of your piece of drama by just changing one thing? I hope that clears up semiotics a little bit for you. If you have any questions or you'd like to know a little bit more, then drop me a comment in the comments underneath and I will get back to you. Thanks very much.